let's locate your father, your family in Georgetown. Your father was attached to Queen's College.
Yes.
Queen's College was sort of central to the family's life. Talk about that.
Yes,
Let's look
very
at it.
much. I mean, he was the first American to come to BG on a Fulbright
Scholarship or
program. Yeah.
grant, whatever it is.
There were several people who followed him, but he was the first from America. And there had been nobody teaching biology at Queen's College for about 3 years. The previous instructor had taken a position in Africa, I can't remember where. So this was a real problem for any of the boys who aspired to go into medicine. They really needed that to pass those exams. So Dad was consumed right away with work. My parents lived for a short time at a guest house on Waterloo Street. That didn't survive even in '94. That was gone. Then they moved to Parade Street and lived there for quite a while, which is very conveniently located to the city,
School, and
to the school.
Right, to the school.
They decided to move out to Atkinson Field when some of the agitation in Georgetown was building.
Around
After the election,
53.
yeah, maybe toward the, I should know this, I just don't remember the dates exactly, but they both found out that they were being overcharged for their apartment at the same time that they thought it might be better to be out of the center of the city. So they were able to rent a house at Atkinson Fields, what the old name for the airport.
Yeah.
And they were very happy out there, but politically things were happening, and at the time that the British troops came in, those houses were needed for officers. There was a tremendous housing shortage problem then. So they had to get out of Atkinson Fields, and there wasn't really anywhere else to go that seemed like a place they wanted to be. I don't think they were offered anything. So they went on leave for 6 months. And when they came back, they lived on 3rd Avenue in Sobrionville.
All right.
And then had to give that up, and at that point they lived on the Queen's College compound. That was, their home there was my first home.
We've talked about your mother, your father. Let's talk about your work on compiling this book. There must have been, apart from those reasons that you give for wanting to do the book, but publishing a book is no easy task.
True.
Publishing a book is no easy task. Talk about the production of this book and your role in it.
Well, I've worked in publishing my entire career. Not doing this kind of thing, but I started off working with design studios that produce educational textbooks. I did that for a long time, so I was kind of familiar with the pace of work and just concentrating your efforts toward an end result. Then I switched from that kind of work into copy editing and editing for magazines. And that was another whole harness to get used to wearing, the refinement that goes on and on and on. Because every time you look at something, you see more that should be changed or improved. It's almost endless. The writing itself is something I don't have as much of a track record with as I wish I did. But I certainly enjoyed doing that with this. But I feel like I brought all the skills to bear. I didn't have, other than showing the manuscript to a few colleagues who generously read through the parts I wrote, some of them just read those 2 chapters. A couple of people read the whole darn thing. Other than that, it's just me, which is unusual for any book, let alone something that size.
Yeah, right. There must have been difficulties, challenges. How did you overcome those challenges?
Well, sometimes I just stopped working on it for a while. I would have to put it down. I just wouldn't know how to proceed. I couldn't find the answer to something, or I wasn't sure how to handle the interweave between the letters and history. And I just would wait until I got clearer on what to do, I did decide to insert pieces when the Constitution was suspended. I thought, well, Americans won't have any idea what was going on. And, that part of the effort was interesting because I decided I really didn't want to quote British or American sources that much. I really wanted to quote Guyanese.
Ah.
You can find people pontificating about, somebody else's history. That's not hard to find, but they weren't there. Or they wouldn't be attuned to local nuances. And so that was a challenge for research, but there's so much written about Guyana if you just keep looking. The internet was invaluable for this. I just kept searching for more
information,
books. Yeah.
And there's some revelations, some things that you discovered about Guyana. Perhaps you can look at that. But it just crossed my mind that period, there was an American who was involved, Janet Jagan, who was married to Chetty Jagan. So that's another connection to America.
That's true. I think my parents were worried. This was during the Red Scare, the Joe McCarthy years.
Yes.
They were concerned about communism. They were not reaching out to the Jagans, not in a position to do that either. But I don't think there was a common bond there. There are many different ways to orient yourself in a culture. But yes, she was definitely very active in that period.
She was, right.
And well after.
Yeah. The title, Years of High Hopes. Whose title it was?
I wanted to take the title from something that my mother had written. And in the last chapter, I quote from a memoir that she tried to write much later, in the 80s. And she referred...
Interesting woman.
Yeah. Yeah, she kept that attempt, too, even though she didn't finish it. But she referred to the Georgetown experiences, years of high hopes and small children. And I thought, that's kind of perfect because it captures the family. It also embraces what was going on here.
True.
And it suggests that it didn't last. That was a period.
Yeah, it was just those years.
So then something else happened, So I thought it worked.
Yeah, I'm intrigued about the title, Years of High Hopes, and I know some of our history around that period, and that was interesting times for whoever was going through it at that time. For some, it was hope, and for others, it was despair. But the title fits nicely for that, for your purposes. Now you're here, you've seen Guyana, 94,
Mm-hmm.
2017. And I'm sure you can sharpen your skill, your writing skill now, and perhaps return with another slice of Guyana later. Any thoughts?
Absolutely. I can say that at the end of my trip in '94, I felt very sad because even though I'd been here and I was glad to have come, I didn't feel I had quite connected with Guyana. I just didn't get to it somehow. And I obviously didn't foresee writing this or coming back. So I thought I had missed out on something. This visit, I will have been here for a week, and I have spent time with so many Guyanese who've been so generous with their time, and they're sharing their ideas and their knowledge with me. I feel much more
Connected?
tuned in.
Tuned,
Yes, and
right,
it's such a great feeling to have about your birthplace, after all.
Right. So we're looking forward for that slice.
Well, thank you.
Letter writing has been going on for quite a while. Even it's taken a shorter form now, as in email and other forms of communications. Letter writing, keeping of a diary, they have been going on for quite a while. And many books have been spawned from letters and from diaries. We have our own writers like A.J. Seymour.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He, from the age of 22, he was always keeping a diary. And then there is Edgar Mittelholzer, a novelist, who also recorded almost every detail with reference to the weather and other things. So you'll find the weather playing a great part in his novels. And in fact, his Guiana trilogy recorded about 350 years of Guyana's history, from the days of slavery right down into our years looking towards independence. That's a good set of books to get hold of, to learn something more about our history. The letters. Have you brought them all together here?
You mean, is there more?
Is there more?
No, this is what has survived. It's all of the letters that my mother sent to her parents, and the first year's worth of my father's letters. The rest that he wrote, I'm sure that they had been saved, but they were lost in a fire that at his house in Massachusetts in 2005. I believe that was when. So nobody knew that first year's worth of his letters had survived the fire until 2013. Suddenly, there they were. I thought this was both a blessing and a curse, because the book was, pretty close to done, and then here comes more letters. But they were worthwhile. Because he wasn't just in the home, because he was in the interior, and he was, women were kind of kept on the domestic level. He wasn't operating that way. He had a broader range of interactions. So, he was able to take down the remarks of people right after the election results were in. The sense of hope and not always hope by the British. It's like, well, now what are we, what's coming? That was fascinating to me, to have that
Other set.
record right from the moment. Yeah.
Fascinating. Why I raise the point is that if you had those letters, additional letters that were written to other people, it would have changed the tone of this book that you have.
Letters to other people?
Yeah.
You mean that my parents had
Yes,
written?
right.
Well, you know, I never thought of that, and I don't know who else they wrote to. I
Okay.
don't know. So that's interesting.